is the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. My name's Ellie Greening.
And my name's Sandra Patel-Stewart.
On this podcast, we will be interviewing some of the UK's greatest tech leaders. We'll be discussing war stories, battle scars, and their learnings from their journeys.
Hopefully, you will pick up some great tips, learn from others' experiences, and have a good laugh along the way.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. Super happy today to have the fantastic Tobias Teuber, who is the CEO at Lykon. So Tobias is a well-travelled and highly successful CEO and founder. He first founded Groupon Australia and then went on to lead the success story of Groupon Asia. Following on from this, Tobias worked as VP for Klarna and a number of other great brands. After this, Tobias decided to start Lykon, who are a highly successful digital health company who are based in Berlin. And they really are going from strength to strength over the past 5 years. We're extremely happy to call Tobias one of our clients here at Transition Partners, but it's great to finally get you on the podcast and have a chat about your experience and your story. So hello.
Hello, thanks a lot for having me. That was the best pronunciation of my last name ever by an English-speaking person, Ellie. Congratulations.
Yes! Thank you.
Fantastic. It's great to have you on our show finally, Tobias, because I know Sarah's been talking to you about it for some time, and obviously we've worked with you for a couple of years now. I think we opened up Berlin just coming up to 2 years actually. And you Lykon as one of our first clients, so you've really helped us, grow our brand and office in Berlin. So thank you very much for your support, and hope that the people that we've supplied to you have gone on to do a great job for you.
Absolutely, thanks a lot. I mean, thanks a lot for being in Berlin. To be honest, I think it was a great journey. We had really a lot of significant positions on a lot of levels, but especially also on leadership levels, C-level, etc. So that was a really good journey with you guys so far. Thanks a lot for this.
Thank you. Great. So let's get straight into it then. So I always like to start with, I think it's always really good to just find out more about you. You've obviously got a very successful, highly successful career and background. So it'd be really good if you could just initially start with where everything started. So from education right the way through to where you are today.
Cool. Look, well, first of all, I'm 40 years old and have 2 kids. And I grew up in Oldenburg or Kloppenburg, which is a small town north of Germany. Important part of my life was always sports, and that is also that kind of led me to where I am today. So this is why I want to briefly describe what I did. So when I was younger, I was really doing a lot of sports, basically 7 days a week. But I was also very much into, let's say, body and mind things like meditation and nutrition and this and that. And I was a bit of a nerd these days. A lot of people laughed, my friends laughed about me when I was younger, doing stuff like meditation and so on. But I was always a bit like this. And this obviously helps me a lot with what I'm doing now, which is obviously also, let's say body related, medical related, and nutrition related. So however, in the end, I studied, business administration. After that, I went into consultancy, did that for a couple of years, then into private equity, worked in the UK, in Swindon, close to London, as well as in Paris for a year each. And afterwards, I, was going to Australia and founding a company there called Groupon. Pretty successful these days. Mm-hmm. And then I, was responsible for Asia Pacific. They're leading 8 countries, mostly flying around from left to right. Sometimes I'm saying I slept more in planes than in my own bed, which was kind of true. Yeah, which was true because it's such a long trip from Australia, like Sydney, where I lived, to everywhere, right? So you have to fly in 8 hours to the next country. And then, you know, from whatever, Australia to India, which was one of my countries, it was a forever trip, right, as you can imagine. So anyway, at some point I got a bit homesick, and because Australia is far away, so I decided to go back to Europe. Ended up in the end working, you know, for a German media concern in venture capital. And at that point I kind of had the idea of Lykon. It was more of a coincidence because I felt pretty shitty these days. So I had like stomach problems, and I did feel a bit energy-less. So I was not there where I want to be, like performance-wise, and yeah, I felt a bit chubby and these kind of things. So I just didn't feel good from all perspective, and I decided like to you know take control over my health. Say again?
So on a bit of a health kick.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to have like more. I decided in the end to like have more control over my health and like well-being again. So look, a doctor was recommended to me, like a nutrition-focused doctor, and he, however, he only could give me an appointment in like 3 months. So as I'm a bit of an impatient guy, I was then looking up online if I can buy something like a nutrition intolerance test online. And I found a test, however, sold by a laboratory which didn't understand like end consumers really. So coming more from B2B than from B2C. And I felt like, well, I can do that a bit better, potentially. And then look, from there on, I dig deeper into this topic of, you know, medical self-testing, at-home testing, personalized medicine, personalized nutrition. So I spoke to a few doctors, and in the end, I decided to, you know, become self-employed in that era, and finally got the agreement from my wife as well. She was pregnant at this time.
Oh, wow.
She gave me the confirmation that I can spend all our savings on Lykon, which I still appreciate because it was a pretty good decision in the end. And look, I wanted to, you know, in the end, I wanted to empower people to take control over their health and live a healthy life. And I really wanted to help them to, like, you know, be more on top of their lab results. You know, I wanted to give them personalized recommendations. I wanted to be like a companion, like holding hand and help people, you know, to achieve their health goals. And I felt it was a bit like if you're going into a car and you have all these like things in front of you, like a cockpit. You know how much fuel you need and how much where your engine is and how fast you are and which gear you are, etc., etc. And I wanted to do the same for, you know, for my customers, like, but only from a health perspective. And you know, this is why we developed all these at-home blood tests and DNA tests, and everybody, all of our customers get like personalized recommendations based on their results. And it's been a good journey so far.
Yeah, I've actually personally used your test. My husband and I actually, we both have, and it's great. And it does certainly, and the support that I had, because there were certain things that I didn't quite understand, what I needed more of, less of, and the support was great, and it enabled me to be more kind of hands-on with my own doctor here, and you know, and ask for specific additional tests or for them to monitor certain things. So it's I think it's absolutely great, and it's great that you particularly given the current climate and situation and recent kind of, I guess, health issues that people are experiencing, and you know, it's brilliant, fantastic. So you've obviously got a very natural flair for, you know, you're very entrepreneurial. You've, you know, you quite quickly moved from education into consultancy, and then founded businesses, and you know, you've operated at VP exec level. What do you think's given you that, you know, and I think you said earlier that you're only 40 at the moment, you're 40, 2 kids, so you've achieved a hell of a lot for a very young age.
Thank you very much. 40 doesn't feel that young
very,
anymore,
very proud of yourself. So what do you think's given you that determination and drive and that flair to become what you are and to have achieved everything that you've achieved?
Well, good question. I mean, you said at the beginning, I'm so successful, and honestly, I mean, success, first of all, for me is a really matter of definition. What is successful? When you're rich, when you have a company with a lot of employees, when you're whatever profitable as a company, or when you're healthy, when you have a family, and these kind of things. I think the definition of like success is very, very individual, and I'm fully aware of the fact that so many more people are, at least from a business perspective, more successful out there. So I'm always a bit shy to kind of answer these kind of questions. But when, business-wise, how I got where I am right now is definitely, a mixture of luck, that's for sure. I think you always need luck in life, but you also always need like passion and engagement, and you should definitely do what you're passionate about and what you really like, and where you feel that you have knowledge and potentially talent that is better than with other people. Because I always want to win. So I hate losing, to be honest. I'm a very competitive guy. And so I'm trying to fight the wars where I'm good at, and where I have passion about. And I think a bigger mistake that I did also at the beginning, but a lot of other people also do, is like you're sometimes driven by, let's say, external things. With external things, I mean like whatever, status and money, and what other people say and think about you. And I think it's extremely important that you kind of separate yourself from these kind of influencing factors, and that you should really focus on yourself, on your mind, on your strengths, on your capabilities, and most importantly on your on what you're passionate about and what you really like to do on a daily basis. Because otherwise life is so short. I can tell you, with my 40 years, it feels like it runs like it was super quick, right? And it's just it would be a waste of time, or it is a waste of time if you're doing things that you don't like to do. So and I think I'm getting better and better at this, like focusing on my own strengths and focusing on my passion, and especially in the last years that really helped me to do what I'm doing now, like building this business and having a family and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Amazing.
I think a lot of people would love to find out a little bit more about your 5 years in now, and this Lykon's really gone from strength to strength. But there's a lot of people out there that are in earlier stages of their startup. And is there any sort of like tips and advice that you really think will help propel them into strengthening the organization?
There are so many things that have to come together, and also we had a very, let's say, dynamic history. I would say, like for Lykon and for myself, number one thing that brought us to where we are is persistency. And because you have to fight so many fights, like on a daily basis. You have to make so many decisions. You have to fight on a process perspective, be it whatever IT processes or customer service processes and this and that, like these day-to-day things really bring you in a position that you have to do so many decisions on an hourly basis, on a minutely basis, basically. And like to go through this, to always be persistent, to fight, to always concentrate, to make the right decisions on a daily basis. Although there are so many things and sometimes people that sort of sticks between your legs, that is I think one of the the most important characteristics an entrepreneur should have. Yeah, persistency, engagement, based on passion, as I said. So that's definitely number one. Number two is, look, as an entrepreneur, it's always easy to think or work on gut feel, let's say it like this. And gut feel is important, don't get me wrong. In gut feel, your gut is connected to your brain and to your experiences and to your logic. So gut feel is very often a good thing because it's more logical and more data driven, so to say, than you think. However, I think it's extremely important that you make a lot of decisions based on data and based on information. And with this, I mean also you need to have like a very close ear and eye on your customer all the time, right? You need to understand what's going on in customer service. You need to like ask your customer how you should build your product, and you should really avoid to like do too many decisions based on your gut feel solely. If you want to base it on gut feel, then better ask like 10 people in your company what their gut feel is as well. But I think that is one of the biggest learning, especially for us, because we are in a sensitive industry. We are at this threshold between lifestyle and medical, and being very close to the customer, understanding what the customer tells us, the data, this quantitative information we get and we collect, really brings you then to the end in a position where you are able to provide the customer a good product, but are also in a position to market and sell your product in the right way, in a smart way to your customer.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think these are the two most important things, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that will definitely help other people that are finding it. I mean, the startup scene is notoriously tough, so any tips on that is great. And your career then, as you've led sort of like Groupon Asia, there's some big roles. I'm sure you've managed some large teams. There's Lykon scaled up as well. It'd be brilliant to find out a little bit more about your leadership style and how your teams see you and perceive you, and any tips on leadership that you may have for people that are looking to sort of climb the ladder.
I would consider my leadership style as like rather democratic and potentially like coach based. So I'm not the type of person that is like autocratic and like purely top down and these kind of things. I mean, I think there are a lot of like examples out there of like very charismatic and strong leaders that always like just made decisions top down, and they were successful. A lot of them were successful, but it's not my type, right? I'm rather democratic, so I really try to like listen to people a lot. So I rather ask people more than once, like, what do you think? Are you sure? And I try to do that like as broad as possible. Sometimes people tell me that I'm asking like too many people and ask too many questions. I should make decisions. I should make decisions rather quicker than involving too many people. But this is just my style, and I've like good experiences with this because it's in my brain. It's like I want to, it's like a puzzle piece. Every decision you make, you make it based on data and information, and this data and information you put together. At least again in my head, like this is my picture which I have in mind then. And as soon as I have enough puzzle pieces to make a proper decision, then I make the decision and not quicker. And this requires to work very collaboratively, talk a lot, listen a lot, to make these decisions. Sometimes it's intense and it's time consuming, but for me it's helpful. And then I really like the idea of coaching. Coaching is also very time intense. So unfortunately, apologies to my fellows at Lykon, I don't have like too much time for this, and I should allocate much more time to this actually. But I really like coaching and sparring in both directions. Actually, I always ask for feedback as well. And again, for me, like negative feedback is the best feedback, because listening to people saying, "Hey, you've done things great," is fine, but you don't learn that much from that. But having smart people in front of you who tells you, "Hey, this was not good, and this you should have or could have done better," is important information you need as a leader, which you seldomly get, though, unfortunately. So yeah, to sum it up, democratic leadership style in combination with coaching.
I think by having that approach, you're taking your team on the journey, aren't you, with you? So you've all got that end goal in mind and everyone's adding value. So hopefully in terms of sort of retention opportunities for your team in the future, that should be great. So yeah, no, brilliant. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to actually go back to when we were talking about Lykon and obviously given the current pandemic that we're all dealing with, and I mean, I'm very jealous that you guys are now able to go and eat out in your favourite restaurants, and obviously your Germany's coming back out of this quite quite well, considering. Lycon's been instrumental recently as well, haven't you, as a business in helping people, I guess, from a testing point of view. It'd be interesting to tell the listeners and viewers more about how as a business you've pivoted and what you're doing now, and what the challenges have been throughout that journey.
Corona-wise, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, it has been a challenging time for us as well, for everybody. I mean, luckily from a business perspective, things are going good because we're in healthcare, and healthcare is like less affected than whatever travel from Corona, obviously. But also we saw like a drop in revenue, like in the first 2 weeks, because everybody was in shock and freezing and not buying anything, etc. And then you have to manage people remotely, which is a hugely different, which is a huge challenge and hugely different to what we've done before. I was always of the strong and more traditional opinion that you have to have people like in the office, being able to see them face to face, building a culture in the office, and do that remotely is much harder. And it's a good question. Like, how do you build a culture remotely? Like, if you have everybody remote, it's not easy. Or how you maintain a culture remotely, it's not easy. And we've set up a few measurements to make sure that people stay kind of connected. With, for example, like making sure that we have like weekly company update meetings and like transport information even more intensively than beforehand, be more transparent than even beforehand. We haven't had like a company update meeting on a weekly basis, but more on a bi-weekly basis. So now we have it on a weekly basis. We made sure that everybody is doing as much video as possible instead of just like calling each other from home, or doing a non-video based chat, like video, because video is a bit more than just like seeing people, is more than the voice, hearing only the voice, and so on and so on. So we try to do a few things left and right there. And coming to the second part of your question, like, yeah, we are offering a COVID-19 antibody test. Pretty early, we were the first ones in Germany that offered such a test for at home usage. And it was driven by two things. One is a more commercial aspect, because we had experience with these kind of ELISA tests. So ELISA is a methodology behind that. So it's a lab test. It's not like one of these rapid tests. It's a very trustful and highly scientific and CE marked lab test. So we knew how that works, and we had the interface to laboratories in order to implement that. So we just did it. However, the second aspect was also like we felt responsible to do something in this period. My family was also affected by Corona, so we had one family member who died from Corona. So that kind of pushed me even more to think in that direction. And I felt like antibody testing, like to check if you had Corona, and to at least understand if you are immune with a higher probability. So it's, to be clear here, it's not 100% safe scientific, but very likely that if you had Corona and you developed antibodies, that you are immune. But to give people the opportunity to check if they're immune, and to check if they have antibody, and to potentially live live their lives in a bit of a different way than if they wouldn't know that. And I think I know how it is with like family and kids not being able to see the grandparents and etc. for a while. And I had a lot of friends who had like sick cases in their families and they couldn't visit them in the hospital, etc. So there are a lot of tragedies going on these days still. And look, an antibody testing is definitely something that can help, that helps to open up the society again, to find an exit out of this situation. And we wanted to support that. So this is why we did it in the end.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. Might be ordering one of those myself soon.
You're very much invited.
So what's obviously you've again I guess reiterating the successful career path that you followed. I'm assuming, rightly or wrongly, throughout your time you've either listened to maybe other podcasts or read quite a lot of books, articles. Are there any books or articles, podcasts, etc., that you would recommend to the listeners that you've personally, felt that has helped you along the way, that anyone can kind of learn from, or that's helped get you where you are today?
Good question. I'm very much into audiobooks these days. I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks. I felt like this is it's easier for me to like allocate my time to other things than Lykon, my family. Like when I'm walking to the office, for example, I'm listening to audiobooks. So, one audiobook one book I really liked was From Good to Great. It's called, from Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Pretty famous, I think. A lot of people have read it, and it was definitely a book that helped me, that guided me somehow through, through a lot of things, and guided me to make the right decisions. Don't want to go into the details of the book right now. It's too complicated, but it's definitely a fantastic book. I can recommend it. It's a lot about strategy and leadership styles and what makes companies successful and being great instead of good. So that's number one, potentially. Recently, I've listened to an audiobook. It's called Can't Hurt Me, from David Goggins, an ex-Navy SEAL who became then an ultra marathon runner, and he holds some world records in pull-ups and so on and so on. He's a crazy guy. But his history is so interesting because he had a terrible childhood and he was obese, and at some point it clicked in his brain, and then he had like a few months to apply for the Navy SEALs. He lost, I think it was 50 kilo in 3 months, and he was super fit. And
wow.
I like this kind of shit. I wanted to say, like, I like this like motivational stuff, and he's
motivational and inspirational.
Yeah, it's very motivational, very inspirational, and he's a crazy dude. And I'm still like, I listened to it like two months ago. I still honestly, it changed. I would say it changed a lot in my life after I read this book. I'm even more focused on on timing and sports and pushing through the things that I want to do. So that's number two. And number three, there's a book called Peak Performance, which I also like. So a guy that's like approached performance in sports and businessmen and scientists and artists, like from scientific perspective, like what are the factors to achieve peak performance, scientific based factors to achieve peak performance. Very interesting insights. Yeah, so these three books, maybe.
Interesting. What was the second one again?
David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me.
Right, okay. I'm gonna have to get that one. Sounds interesting.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Great. I think there's a common theme around like that sporting, looking after your self-health. Obviously, it's the nature of why Lykon came around, but obviously mental health and looking after your body is so important it's interesting, isn't it, that a lot of leaders struggle to find the time to do it. But it'd be great if you can share any tips for you that, like, what keeps you sane and healthy? How do you allocate your time to look after yourself and really switch off from such an important role?
It's not easy, actually. I mean, entrepreneurs usually are 24/7, at least thinking about the business. And in my case, it's maybe 27. So honestly, I'm still struggling to find the sweet spot there. I'm getting better with this. That's for sure. And there are a few things that helped me in the last years to optimize this. One is, it's potentially the best health hack I've ever done, or I've done recently again, like started a couple of years again, which is meditation. Right? Meditation is it sounds a bit esoteric. I'm not sure if that's the right English pronunciation, esoteric or esoteric, but it's really fantastic. It calms you down. It's basically, your brain is like a muscle, right? And you have to train your muscle, and you're training your muscle every day when you work and when you do business and stuff. But you have to relax the muscle as well. You have to give him calm time and relaxation time, and meditation just like accelerates this strongly. So that's definitely number one. And then number two is time management. Little things like, really using the time you have in the morning, especially, to do something meaningful, not like being in bed forever and checking Instagram and social media channels and this and that. It's just, for me, it's not productive, and it's not relaxing. So I at least try to stand up quick after I woke up. I do, since a while, like an exercise every morning for 10 minutes. So I have my exercise video, which I do like 10 minutes, which is great. So what I want to say is, like, time management is really important. Put things in your calendar, even in the morning, that you want to do sports, but also if you want to have a date night with your wife and these kind of things. Otherwise, it will not happen. And then thirdly, I learned a lot about behavioral change in the last year. So we at Lykon also think a lot about behavioral change. How can you make people to change their behavior and follow our recommendations? And little things like establishing tiny habits, and how do you establish them? For example, if you want to build muscles, like, how do you make sure that you allocate push-ups in your daily routine? And then there are a few tricks, like, for example, always connect a new habit to an old habit. Like, if you go to the toilet, afterwards you do 10 push-ups, right? So then you always connect something which you do usually during your day and with something new you want to do. So behavioral change is definitely something, and the theory behind it definitely helps me to manage my day a bit better.
It's a good way
to. Is it easy?
Yeah.
Is it easy? No, it's not. But it's. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I agree. I particularly liked your point on social media, because before you know it, you've spent an hour scrolling on your phone.
Exactly.
And what do you get from it? Like, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel any better, any less stressed? It doesn't really, does it? We had someone on, we had a global group IT director on our podcast the other day, actually, and we asked him the same question, and he said something similar to yourself. And I think he's got like a 1.5-year-old. He gets up really early.
4:30, he wakes up.
Yeah. But he just said that he doesn't spend that time on social media, and he makes choices on like Netflix and things like that. And for the first time, so like I've been learning through recording these podcasts as well. And for the first time, the other night, I just thought, you know what, instead of having an hour or so watching something on TV, I'm going to do this one thing. I've got this little project that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to sit down on my laptop and I'm going to do that. And I felt so much better for doing that. But it is time management, isn't it? It's changing your mindset and time management, but it's quite hard to do that. I think you've got to have a lot of self-control.
Absolutely. It's a lot about self-discipline. I mean, little things like not having your mobile phone close to your bed is easy to
one
implement.
of my biggest flaws.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing that since like 10 years now. So I don't have my mobile phone close to my bed. It's because I'm a bit addictive. So if I would have it close to my bed, I would definitely do something wrong with it, like social media, which, yeah, as I said, like I think is a bit of a waste of time very often. And yeah, you need to really take ownership of your time and of your life, and you know, taking ownership is not like sitting in a chair relaxed, having your whatever fries on the right side and your mobile phone on the left side, browsing through Instagram. This is not taking control of your life. This is letting go of your life.
Very well said.
Good top tips there, which is brilliant. It'd be interesting then to finish the podcast with what you're most excited about. So obviously it's been a turbulent 6 months for us all. And for a lot of business owners like yourself, they've had to pivot or change their original plans and take a slightly different approach. But it'd be great to find out what your plans are over the next sort of 12 months and what you're most excited for at Lykon.
Look, I mean, I have a lot of plans privately and business-wise. We have, starting with Lykon. I mean, we have so many things in front of us which we want to do. We have a clear strategy. We want to launch new products, new technology, new app. It's a tremendous work we have in front of us, but it's all exciting because, as I said, it's like what I really like. I just like to build companies. I like to work with people, and I like to think about nutrition and health and longevity and all these things we're doing. To sum it up, like a lot of projects are going on which I really like and I'm super excited about. On the one side, on the other side, like privately, I'm excited that Corona is getting in the right direction at least. I'm super happy to see people eating outside, at least in Germany. I'm not exactly sure how it is in the UK these days. Don't think that well yet, right? Quite a bit behind, a few weeks behind, but I'm pretty sure you will manage it well. But I definitely want to do much more sports, and B, spend more time with my family. I have a bit of a goal, which is a triathlon next year.
Oh,
I just had a discussion with my wife recently and asked her, are you okay if I'm going to train for a triathlon? And she was like, what does it mean exactly? I was like, yeah, look, a bit more training in the morning and in the evening.
See me even less.
Yeah.
Which area do you think you will struggle on? Because obviously there's normally one, isn't there? Usually people are good on the bike and good at the run, but they struggle on the swim. Which bit do you think you'll need the most work on?
The swimming part, definitely.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's tough. I'm not a good swimmer, so I want to do a bit of a swim training soon. Running, I'm okay actually. So I've done a marathon and 10Ks and half marathons and stuff. So I'm pretty okay there. Cycling doesn't feel that complicated in that.
Yeah. Swimming is always the hardest to learn. It's always a bit, unless you're sort of like taught techniques at childhood, I think it's always quite tough. My partner, he takes parts in triathlons every year with work. They do it as a corporate thing, and he's just not got the swimming technique, and he's had lessons, but it's just tough, isn't it? So fingers crossed for that. That's exciting. Will it be?
Thank you.
Will it be announced
public? I haven't announced it public. I think I haven't mentioned it to anybody.
It's going to be public soon.
Yeah, it will be. It's out there now. You've committed. That's it. Sometimes you need to commit to things like that. So make sure you send us through the sponsorship details. Are you going to do it for charity?
Oh yeah, good idea. Actually, I didn't think about that, but maybe.
Well, definitely. You'll have to let us know because
maybe a mindfulness or mental health charity potentially.
Good idea.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been fantastic speaking to you, Tobias. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. If anyone's got any questions, are they all right to sort of reach out to you direct, or if they're interested in finding out more about Lykon?
Absolutely. Write me, tobias.teuber@lykon.com. I'm happy to answer all your questions or connect to you. Or ping me on whatever, LinkedIn, for example.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Yeah.
so quite most people use LinkedIn, don't they?
Perfect.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So I hope everyone has enjoyed listening and tuning into this one. We don't charge for these podcasts, but what we would love is if everyone could share the podcast so that we can share all the learnings and experiences from this great session. And thank you very much again, Tobias.
Perfect.
Thank you a lot.
You.
It was fantastic. Great questions. Great podcast. I love it.
Thank you.
Cool.